Hello everybody. Thank you all for joining. This is Nilesh Patel. I'm the founder and CEO of LeadSquared. So today we are going to talk about how we can drive more sales from marketing side, how we can increase the conversions as marketers and help our sales team close more deals. So before I go into the presentation, a couple of quick points. We will have the Q&A session towards the end of our session, so we can, my colleague Meenu has also joined me, so she and I will try our best to answer your questions. So with that, I'll get started, and I'm hoping to cover the slides in less than 30 to 35 minutes, and we'll have some time available then for Q&A. Okay, so sort of getting into this, in the session, I thought I'll just first quickly define what I'll mean by marketing and sales in simple terms, so that marketing is broadly used term and has different meaning for different people. So for today's session, I just wanted to define that, and then we'll talk about what is commonly understood as leads and what is my definition of relevant leads, and then which probably is the definition of a lot of other folks, but we don't really write them down or talk them as such, except we say mostly a salesperson will say, oh, this lead is not relevant and this is relevant. It basically ends there. There is no other facts we sort of present there. And then once we have the understanding of relevant leads and how we can find those and avoid the others and give good stuff to our sales team. And then what kind of nurturing strategies we can use to drive sales readiness among the leads which we already have and which has not bought from us and stuff like that. And then finally, I'll just talk a little bit about how we can identify the sales ready leads. So let's get going. So for today's discussion, I'll be basically calling marketing from a perspective of lead generation. So whatever we do, the activities in terms of generating leads, which constitutes majority of our activities as marketers, which constitutes majority of our volume of leads, is what I would call as marketing. And for a lot of businesses, I personally believe, especially in the who are emerging businesses or small to mid-sized businesses, really there is no concept of branding which they have. I mean, they don't have money to brand and spend and splurge money on newspaper advertisements and whatnot. So I think that can be left for larger companies and bigger organizations. But I think for a lot of small and medium businesses and emerging companies, lead generation is what really they care about, and that's what I would sort of mean by marketing today, which can be from digital marketing, your online stuff, your email marketing, which means that you identify databases and send emails, targeted emails to them. Telemarketing, very relevant for B2B businesses, and also for B2C. So B2B, where you can identify the segment of the market, go after them, and call them up and ask for appointments or demos or presentations. For B2C businesses, a lot of leads come in volume. You don't close them, all of them. You can go back to them, do outbound campaigns using call center dialers and stuff like that. And then events, which are also constitute to a large amount of for a lot of companies, that constitutes an important mechanism tactic to generate leads. As far as sales is concerned, primarily it's inside sales and field sales. So when I say inside sales, I would cover, if you are an education company having, several, dozen people or less or whatever, who are getting calls from the customers, and they are explaining them the product and asking them to make a transaction, or you are a software company who is selling a software just like LeadSquared. You have a small team who would do demos and basically tell the people, show the product to them. So that bucket is inside sales. Then you have field sales professionals who will basically go and sort of close deals and meet the customers and all of that stuff. So what is the definition of lead commonly understood? So inquiries, so I've taken what I've, I'll just spend a minute on trying to sort of cover this part. So I've tried to pick examples from consumer-focused businesses like education, real estate, and others, and also some of them in B2B, so that there could be a little mismatch. If you are a consumer marketer joining the session, you might find certain parts not as relevant. So I just wanted to make sure everybody gets relevant information here. So in education, most people would consider that any inquiry from the website or any inquiry from the online campaign or inquiries coming from the blog or anybody calling is considered as a lead, which is a fairly straightforward understanding. The same is true in B2B, where anybody who obviously comes to the website or sign up for the newsletter or download some kind of guide or white paper, or the telemarketing team of B2B company goes out and makes calls and get leads for appointment. So those are commonly understood definition of lead. However, those all may not necessarily constitute as a relevant lead definition. So when I say relevant lead definition, meaning all the people a telemarketing team is calling may not necessarily be targets which the sales want to pursue, and all the inbound calls for any company may not necessarily be at a point where they are willing to buy, right? So what is that marketing can do to understand first what relevant definition is, lead definition is, and I think largely they will be able to arrive at this definition by working with sales teams. Now, you may be thinking that what is the point? In a lot of small businesses, marketing and sales could be one guy, right? Well, if that's the case, then it's simple. But as you grow, as businesses grow, there will be certain departments. There will be 2-3 people doing only sales. But what happens is typically we don't ask and talk to them and understand and learn from what sales is talking to people on the phone or on the field. We probably just assume that mostly that information is either with the boss who runs the sales program. He would know stuff about what's going on there, but not a whole lot is getting shared with the marketing team. So I think some stuff the marketing should go and learn from or talk to sales and understand and arrive at this definition. And usually sales will say, this is not a relevant lead. It basically ends there. So unless you sort of probe a little bit more and look at the data you already have from a marketing standpoint, it'll help you figure out the definition, or at least give an indication of it. So for example, what constitutes, I have three ideas on how I sort of bucket the whole idea of lead generation, the definition of lead. So one is the channel of where the lead has originated from, or which is the channel which is being used to generate leads, right? So a lot of times one would notice that one or the other channel may not work for a business, or it is too expensive to actually make sense, right? So the business needs to identify which are the channels which are working for them, and that is one element. Second is the offer. So you may have the channel may be right. Maybe there are prospects who are searching for stuff which you offer on online, and I'm sure a lot of there's nothing probably which is not being searched online. By and large, everything is being searched online. But let's say if it is not there, then what may also be wrong is people are searching, but then when they come to you and they find the offer is not relevant. So you attract the intent of people who are not looking to do business with you, but something else. So for example, a lot of times this happens when you're offering free stuff. So when you're offering free stuff, the party who is taking the free stuff is not necessarily interested in doing business with you. They are interested in the free stuff which you offer. So that may yield in generating a lead which is not relevant. However, that doesn't mean that they are not important. I think that's the definition. That's the difference. So relevancy means that maybe when they're relevant, it is better to pass them to sales at that point. Then the segment. So I say segment because segment could could mean multiple things. So it could be industries. Let's say if you're a B2B company focusing on a particular industry or group of industries, or you are a consumer company focusing on a certain age group of individuals or gender whom you're targeting. There could be interest-based segmentation where you are focusing on approaching people who love ice creams, for example, or who are some kind of football fans, for example. And so there are segments on that, and maybe if when you run ads, you might be having a broader orientation of generating leads from all kinds of traffic, and certain segments would work better for you and others may not. So that's how we will arrive at this definition. Then how do we go about generating leads? So I've taken a simple example here sort of to illustrate that. So here is an example of our customer's website here, and this is a form which is on the website. Now it clearly states that sign up today for your free GMAT prep session. So which is anybody signing up doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to pay you, but the fact that they're giving you their phone number gives you some reason to call them, right? Or they're interested in the session. Now, I do not know which of the two will be true. So only after we look at the pattern of leads which come in from this particular form, at that point we will be able to analyze whether this format is actually giving us leads which are immediately available to call, or are not necessarily relevant for calling at this moment. But since it's the call to action states very clearly, it is likely that this particular anybody who fills this form is interested to receive the call. Take an example of this campaign. This is again one of our customers' page. It's a landing page on which they will land somebody when they come from online ads. Now here also there are multiple things which are mentioned on this on the call to action. However, it's one of the points which is clearly mentioned is get Jamburi's guidance now, meaning somebody is interested in taking some sort of a guidance. And then there is the button says get free info, which is sort of not really matching the kind of call to action. But anyway, very likely that this form will give you leads which are immediately interested in buying something from you, or just the nature of the business which is education abroad. Nothing gets sold immediately in this business. So very likely they will have some telemarketing professional call them and ask them to walk in. So this is not a sales, there's nothing readiness from a sales standpoint, but certainly it is relevant from a marketing standpoint. Now while I say marketing, one thing which I'm trying to emphasize here is all the people in the organization which are generating leads and helping in qualification, I would bucket them in marketing segment. So in the marketing bucket. So for example, anybody who qualifies a lead before it is passed on to sales, I would call them marketing because they are not really doing any. So obviously they are selling. Everybody in the company sells for that matter, but they're not really cornering the customer for signing up an order or getting an admission or whatever that may be. So that's there. This is another example of I just picked one of these sites. This is a page on the site. It's interesting here. In the form they mention how can we help you. Now this form is very likely if somebody is inputting any information here, they're likely to seek some help in whatever they're trying to achieve. It's a GRE success program. So if they are putting some information, very likely they may be asking have something to do with the joining, or if they're asking some silly question, maybe you can say. So again, we cannot decide that by looking at the form itself. We can just make an intelligent guess, but by looking at the actual data, we'll be able to judge. Take this example again. It's a blog. So there are two call to action here. So one is a form which basically very clearly gives you an indication that you'll be signed up in some sort of a program or a course. Since the phone number is being asked, you will be called. Okay. Now whether there'll be a sales guy or telequalification guy, we'll know that in a moment. I'll just okay. I just want to check. Last time we actually had people asking questions and we didn't respond immediately. So I just took 1 second to check any questions which are there. So anyway, coming back, And the second call to action, if you see, is a quick installation guide for Android. Now, if you see this one, doesn't necessarily, and I couldn't show the form here because it was hiding the page, but it was throwing a form which is sort of similar to this one, except it didn't have the password, field. Now, anybody who's interested in getting an installation guide may not necessarily be a party who's ready to buy. So the business can decide whether it is good enough to call them, because if you call them and the conversion rate is good, maybe that's a good strategy, from a sales standpoint. So this kind of lead can go directly to either the qualification team or the sales team, or you may determine that even if we call them, it doesn't make sense because these guys are not really in the mode of buying. So it's better not to even call them, right? Then this one, it's kind of picture, as you can see, we're trying to fit in, something which doesn't fit. Basically, what I'm trying to emphasize in this aspect is if you're doing telemarketing, and this is more relevant from a B2B standpoint, right? If you're doing telemarketing and calling on prospects, and your the business for which you're calling is not able to sell either to the business, so the solution which you're offering does not fit a certain segment, for example, or the decision maker you're trying to go after is not somebody who is actually the right authority to take the call on that product or service. So if you generate leads, if you call those guys that kind of profiles, and even if you seek appointments, nothing is going to come out of that exercise because there is no fitment in terms of what you're trying to offer as a business, and whatever the sales guy will start talking to this individual, it won't make any sense to them because neither there is an authority in terms of buying or there is a solution fitment issue. So that is important from a telemarketing standpoint. Now let's look at how we can look at metrics which we gather as we run our marketing programs to identify what is working and what is not working, right? And I'm sure most of you guys already do that, but I thought it'll help us illustrate some of the things. So by virtue of that, I wanted to also highlight one element of improving the marketing metric, and this is going to be a little very short explanation. So typical channels, let's say for some business, is generating leads from these channels. These are the offers, these are some stats, that's the conversion rate, right? Now, what do we do to quickly improve the conversion metric from a marketing standpoint? I'm not talking about the sales at the moment. So quick things, right? One can look at responsiveness of the website. If you are generating leads from the website, spreading call to action, speed of the site needs to be really fast, look and feel, so that people stay for longer duration. If you have a blog, then you should write on topics which capture the search intent, which basically means that if you are trying to answer a question which is being searched by most of the people, then likelihood of your blog pages ranking is high. Your offers on the blog are relevant. Your call to actions are spread across the blog, and though all these call to actions may lead to some sort of a landing page, then the improvement of a landing page vis-a-vis conversion can be looked at. Same goes for AdWords. So you can look at campaign optimization. There are a lot of tactics on that. That's a whole subject altogether. Look at ad copies. Very quickly you can fix these things. Negative keywords, very important, so that you can save on money. And landing pages again to improve the conversion performance. And for inbound calls, I wanted to highlight this part because I think this is one of the most overlooked element in marketing, especially for consumer businesses who are selling to individuals. A lot of times you will receive calls and some of them will be missed either because the business hours are closed or there's nobody who is answering the phone. I think it would make sense for people to look at having systems which will, if you can miss calls if you're not in office. Yes, you will miss calls, right? But if the calls come off business hours, you would miss them, for example, right? So you need to have systems in place, and these are not very expensive systems these days available, cloud telephony systems, which will ensure that you're not losing any calls. Especially even if you're missing the calls, you have the log of people who have called you, and so you can call them back. very important, extremely important. And I'll admit that we have been using the system, but we were missing calls as well. And so we actually got together one of these days, and we decided to look at all the missed calls and start going back to them. To our surprise, we found there were leads who were interested in taking our product, and we made some sales as well. So that's the importance of this. And if you're missing them, you would probably miss sales opportunities. Quick look at sales conversion metrics. Now we'll go back. These are the stuff marketer needs to look at to understand the relevancy element and take the guesswork out of identifying the relevant leads. So and obviously this becomes very tedious, if you're doing a lot of offers. But unfortunately, that is the only way we have looking at data only we can decide if the leads we are generating from a combo of channel and offer and segment, if it may be, that we are helping our sales teams. So this looking at this channel, one can notice that website is converting a lot, inbound calls are converting a lot. Then there are certain channel and offers which are not converting at all. And it's interesting, I wanted to sort of highlight one point. I said that these are the ways to improve your marketing metric in terms of converting more of the visitors into leads. And surprisingly, we had a campaign which we ran. It was converting extremely well. I mean, from a converting, when I say from visitor to leads. And it had a certain call to action and a copy, which was sort of not making complete, I mean, it was making sense to some people, but it was not saying that what we offer as a company, right? And so a lot of people signed up, but what happened is, and the cost per lead was very low for that campaign. But eventually when we looked at the sales data, we found that that was the worst performing campaign we ran actually. It converted well, so everybody thought in the beginning that it's generating very well because it's converting very well and all of that. But when the leads were going to sales, they were saying, well, that's pretty bad. These people don't even know what business we are in, and so basically there was no match. So one thing marketers need to sort of be a little careful is any campaign which converts very well for marketing doesn't necessarily mean it will convert extremely well from the sales standpoint. So this is what I wanted to sort of highlight by bringing up this slide. Now let's just a math here below which says we get 3% conversion out of 400 leads we've generated. So using these metrics which we just looked at above, we can figure out that the channel AdWords and the offer free session A, I've just taken placeholders, is not working because it gave us 0 sales. Now it doesn't mean even in 1 or 2 days we decide that this is the offer which is not working. So we'll have to obviously give every campaign a little time because the sales cycle in businesses can be different. And in some businesses, this kind of analysis might not, will be difficult to do. I won't say might not make sense, but it will be difficult to do because if you're closing deals in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, I think, if you're not using systems, it'll be very hard for you to even keep track of what's going on. So you probably would not even discover that this thing worked and that thing didn't work, kind of thing. But anyway, if you have systems and your sales cycle are shorter in general, I think this data will be it'll be easy for you to get this and analyze and find meaningful meaningful information from it. So what combo is not working? So the AdWords free session A works. The Facebook offer with free webinar A is not working. So that's the sort of outcome of our metric. Now, one more thing which marketing can actually do to help drive help drive the leads in the sales process. So first, which I have which we have noticed and we found it very relevant is the setup of email auto-response. I'm sure even today, if you as users and customers, potential customers sign up on items when I say items on forms and web pages throughout the day, throughout your work, you would find that a lot of times you'll still receive those simple thank you messages as auto response saying, thank you very much, we'll get back to you. I think that practice is not very good. I mean, so auto response is a good thing, yes, so that's a good part. But I think the fact somebody has contacted you should receive a little bit better response than just say thank you and I'll get back to you. Why? Because you might lose the opportunity to re-engage the prospect, so when you say relevant, meaning let's say if somebody has downloaded or filled a form for an offer A, I'm sure when you are putting up an offer A, you know why they are going to sign up, and so likely you would try to give them a little more information and relevant information in your email with that auto response. And what we found is we found it extremely useful, and I'll sort of cover that stat in a moment. That's important. Second is the systems and processes to enable faster response. So this again is an overlooked aspect, and it's hard to implement. It needs money and also intent, obviously, and practicing it is becoming difficult for a lot of businesses. It is difficult to put all of this together because they are either short on bandwidth or short on budget, but it's extremely important. So when I say faster response, meaning if you get a lead, how fast you're calling them. Are you calling them in 5 minutes? Are you calling them in 1 hour? Are you calling them in 1 day? Or you're calling them in 7 days, right? So based on the speed of your response, you will have the ability to close or miss the opportunity. And then having systems and processes to engage and nurture your leads, because let's face it, if we look at the stat I just showed in last couple of slides where I mentioned the conversion rate is 3%. So out of 100 leads you get, 3 are becoming customers. Well, what's going to happen to 97%, right? So 97% is still a market, but an area or the segment of your leads which you have, which are not bought from you but has high probability because they did sign up for you in the first place, right? So I pulled up the stat from our auto response statistics, right? What I found was it was pretty interesting, right? So the open rate of the auto response in our autoresponder system, email auto response, landing page auto response was 50%. And I'm sure some of you may be looking, how it's possible, because most of you would be, you'll be getting less than 10% or lower single-digit open rates, and that's very common, or small number, double digits, so maybe 10, 15, 20% open rates. This is massive, right? I mean, 50% is extremely high. And look at the click rate. It's roughly 25%. Which means that whatever you're sending in the auto response, because you're sending it in a very quick fashion, as and when the forms are filled, you are actually trying to drive the engagement farther with the prospect. And the more parties engage with you, the less time they have to engage with somebody else, which means the more time you have, so the likelihood of you selling to them improves, right? And so the fact that they are clicking means that you need to take this thing very seriously, because if you are driving relevancy in these auto response, this will help you further the engagement with your leads and do better from your competition. This is an interesting stat, and I have actually seen it earlier, and I probably mentioned in one of my webinars. I thought I'll bring it up again. Is slow response is lost opportunity. I'm sure all of you agree. But I think what is important is to see the numbers. What is being found in one research, and I do not know how for the entire data set on which the research was run, but the numbers are telling, if you are not responding to your leads within an hour, and there was one more graph there which was for less than 5 minutes. I thought I'll just take this one first and show, if you're not responding to your leads in 1 hour, then you're losing on even qualifying them whether they are interested to do business with you or not. And this drops significantly after 2 hours. So the drop is extremely extremely high, if you see. So you are basically losing the opportunity if you are not contacting them, and if you contact them, the impression you will leave on them will be extremely positive. And so when I was mentioning to you about having systems in place, so the first element of sending email auto response is probably less, it's trivial, or rather you can buy LeadSquared or any other product of similar kind to achieve that. But having the ability to call the lead as soon as they sort of come in, or in a very short duration, requires integration with telephony systems and whatnot. And I think you need to spend some money and figure out that integration. So this is important that the response time is fast, and if you can do that, awesome. And the investment to do that, I think, is not a whole lot, but yes, there is an investment required. And if you are willing to take a look at this, I think this can help you drive your sales for sure. Now let's look at the stack on lead nurturing. So I'll sort of now cover the lead nurturing and how it is helping people sell more. This was a research done by Marketing Sherpa. It's a little bit dated, but it says very clearly that the folks who are employing lead nurturing as a strategy were able to report 45% higher ROI. And I'll show the ROI calculation in a short while. But before that, I'll bring up an interesting, interesting picture. Some of you may be familiar with this, and others who are not, I'll try to sort of talk about it. So you would have noticed that all these sugarcane juice guys. If you come from, I'm sure we have the audience from a variety of parts of India. From where I come in, I've been in Delhi a few times, and I've noticed it there as well. The sugarcane is being pushed into this, this juice extracting machine multiple times, because there is juice which is left in the sugarcane, and the machine is not able to extract the whole thing in first shot. So the idea is that whatever is there, juice there in the sugarcane, it should be completely taken out, right? It's funny, but the same is true from a lead nurturing standpoint. If you're generating leads and you're not extracting them, just like this sugarcane juice guy, then we are basically leaving some juice on the table, basically. And so that's the idea here, of nurturing, that we need to extract the max juice out of our leads which we generate, because they've already invested money in that, right? So how do we go about using nurturing to drive sales? So drip campaigns are very common. I think I'm sure most of you folks have used that, but they're effective, they're common, and if you're not using it, please, I'll encourage you to start looking at them. Webinars could be something which may not necessarily be important. I won't say important, but the amount of work you do in setting up and doing webinars is not trivial. I mean, it takes work, it takes preparation, and it takes time. So you can figure out in your business whether it is relevant or not. I think for it is relevant. I mean, where decision making is complex, or where education can be used, you can use the topics where you can educate your customers. I think webinars will be definitely useful. You can look at the frequency. And it's not a big deal to try it as well, because you can go to webinar subscription. Is free for 1 month. You already have people lists with you. You can it's very easy to connect your webinars. You send an email and drive the traffic to the webinar page and let people sign up. And if you use LeadSquared as your landing page solution, you will also see that there are higher registrations for your webinars, because we integrate directly with GoToWebinar. So that's one thing. Newsletters are a simple way and time-tested thing to connect with the prospects. If you are in a business where events are important, and sort of so on. So these are various ways, and I may not have listed all of them, to nurture your leads. Telephone is an interesting way. I mean, a lot of salespeople whom convert high are the ones who are actually plugged in with their prospects, and they are not doing nurturing in the sense of a marketer, but at the minimum they are saying hello to the customer, which I think helps them keep a top of mind with their prospects. So in a way, that's I would call as tele nurturing. Now, I've just taken a sample of what a drip campaign may look like, just to illustrate some of you who have not done it in the past, of what you can sort of put together in a simple drip marketing campaign. So let's say if somebody downloads, so let's say if you're a software company, let's say LeadSquared, and somebody downloads one of our webinars which we did on travel, then what we do is we'll send a case study of how another travel business actually benefited from what we have done for them, or how they're using our software, and then we'll send some ideas on helping, because we market to marketers, right? So any travel business, if we talk about that, these are the ways you can improve, you can do content marketing in your business. And so they are pretty open to that, and we have found that in the performance of the campaigns, the autoresponder. And then other aspects of how your product can be used, or what are the benefits of using this product in the travel business. And so you sort of talk about yourself a little bit here. And so you can set this kind of thing up and let it run. And this is just a 4-step. You can have maybe more, 4-step or maybe more, 10-step, or some guys I've heard of do 52 steps. So you can do that, and let the leads respond to them on their own. And once you see some activity on those leads, you can qualify them further and hand it over to sales. So some ideas on webinar. Because we do webinars, so I thought I'll share some of our story here. So the ideas on webinar should be relevant. So for example, if you're selling to marketers, then you can share what trends you are seeing in the market, what kind of experience you yourself had running some kind of tactics, what tools are being used and are increasingly being used by other marketers over the world, how to do this, how to do that, and how to run smart campaigns in using Facebook, all of that stuff. So you can, if you talk about all of that, it'll be interesting to marketers. You can tell stories, so you can bring a customer. So this could be an example for an education company. You can bring a customer who can talk about how he or she has benefited by taking a program with you. And not necessarily the entire webinar should be on that. And this could be a session, by the way, if your audience, if your student, let's say, have topped a certain exam, right? So you can bring them and let them talk about how they prepared, what are the things they did during preparation, and they'll obviously talk about you as a business, as somebody who helped them. So in the process, you will find a lot of other students who are interested to learn about how this gentleman or this person succeeded in their exam. So they will come to hear you out, and it'll be interesting for them. So that's one. You can then get experts to talk on your session on webinar. So somebody, let's say, is expert in some sort of cloud architecture or mobile application guru or somebody like that, and you can get them to talk about what are the new trends in this, or how certain kinds of applications should be designed, or whatever, right? So getting experts is interesting, and you can share research. So this research could be your own homegrown research or something which you have found, and mix with the stuff which you do. And so, for example, there are companies who share how markets are shaping up, and they typically sell to CXO levels, because that's what the kind of audience they sell to. So you will have those ideas in the webinar. So I've taken two, and then I'll sort of conclude on nurturing by doing a quick ROI math here. So if you see, I've just added the numbers. So let's say when we do nurturing, we're spending $4,000 in lead generation costs, and we get 12 customers, which is what I showed earlier, and our deal size is $1,000. So we are basically doing 300% ROI on our overall marketing, lead generation and marketing spend. And let's say we add nurturing to it, and we spend another $1,000, could be people cost or buying some sort of a white paper, I don't know, depending on what you do. And then you probably use that bandwidth or material you've bought to engage your prospects, all right? And you get more customers from your existing leads, So what you would see is your ROI on the same amount, on the same marketing budget you're doing, increases substantially from what you have been getting earlier. So that's huge, and it speaks for itself. And the stat which I showed earlier by marketing Sherpa sort of, and when I was doing the math, I just put some numbers here. So marketing Sherpa report says more than 45% actually the ROI is of the order of 45% more. So this should be really 450% really. So anyway, coming back to the final point which I wanted to sort of make today was the identification of how do we identify sales ready leads. So I wanted to just, the first thing which I wanted to sort of mention is this is really specific to business. So there is no general formula. And so I do not have a formula to give you saying this is how you would identify a sales ready lead. I mean, there is a formula, but it applies differently to different businesses. But there is no one common formula is what I was trying to come at. Now, there are two ways. And I want to practical. I want to look into the context of the kind of audience which is which I'm currently interested to talk with, these small and medium businesses and those companies, right? Now there, how do we? So there are two methods really on whether you want to, understand, how to qualify and then basically send the lead to a sales team. Now, if you're a really small business, any lead which comes to you is what you will call them, right? But as you grow as a business, and you would find that not all the leads need to be called, right? And some of them need to be further processed before they are actually being handed to the sales people. Now, in the event, if you are in a business, right, where you know that the buying intent is clearly visible at the time of sign up, then there is no point in waiting and giving that lead to a guy who is going to, or to a team who is going to further qualify. So if you are in a business where the buying intent is by and large expressed clearly when somebody comes on board or fills a form, you don't need somebody else to further qualify, because it is going to reduce the sales. I mean, you're going to unnecessarily put another person in the sales puzzle, right? Typically, you would do that for B2B, but in B2C, this may not be the case for all the businesses. However, and then the second point is if in a B2B scenario, if somebody is filling a contact us form, I think there is a high likelihood that they are interested in buying your product or service. But I still, unless the contact us form is straightforward, as in it has intent clearly mapped out, you might include a qualification process in between, and you would do that if the volume of leads is high. If your volume of leads is low, then salesperson doesn't have much time except maybe managing accounts and calling and following up on the old opportunities, so they can easily call these leads. But I still know that people actually fail to do so. So that's the reason you need to have somebody to actually look at those leads when they come in. But assuming if in your business there is very little time which is required before you call them, and the buying intent is there when they fill, then I think we should really hand it over to the salesperson who's going to sell. The second way you can understand the intent is there is a lead, and this is the case when I'm talking about when we have we are doing lead nurturing, right? So already a lead is in place, and they pop up again after a certain duration, and you say their lead score is more than 70, and they have visited my pricing page, and their lead score is so and so. Then this lead needs to be assigned to a salesperson, or the salesperson needs to notify, or salesperson goes himself or herself and find out that okay, this lead is available for me and I need to call them. So these could be your automated sort of buying signals. When I say manual, I'm really referring to the process where some sort of qualification can be required. So I would, in a classic B2C scenario, I would consider real estate as a good example of where some qualification is important, because if you see, real estate is a big investment commitment from a customer, and they would shop around probably 2-3 dozen places before they figure out. Now, if anybody is just shopping around and asking out questions and filling inquiry forms, is not somebody whom you would hand over to your sales guy, because sales guy would ideally focus on prospects who are a little bit more serious. So what you would do then, right? Ideally, if you're a real estate guy and a real estate company, I would advise that you have a small qualification team who would, and I have seen companies I've interacted with, they already have. So that team would actually do the qualification piece, and before they hand over the lead to the salesperson, they ask them questions about the budget. It could be, readiness to buy, or which area they are looking to buy a property, and basically all those questions which are relevant for every business, and then basically process and give the inquiry to somebody else. Similarly, the case could be of a software company where people are asking for demo and free trial, and also free trial, in my opinion, in our experience, not only in my opinion, but in my experience, is anybody who signs a free trial doesn't really need a call from the salesperson. So they can be called by a qualification team member, who can call them, assess them whether they are at point of buying or whether they're just looking around. I mean, I would consider request for demo a little bit more serious, because they're actually asking you to do a demo. So there you can have a salesperson, but depending on the situation. But I still see that as a manual step before one can really hand it over to the sales guy. And then maybe in your business, if somebody visits some kind of feature page or services page, and that doesn't mean a whole lot, you don't really have to get that lead to a salesperson. A qualification team member can call such leads and process them before they are handed to a sales team. So I think that concludes of what I wanted to sort of cover today. And we can now take questions from the audience, and would love to see what you guys think about this session. Okay, I think there is a question which I can see from Ramesh. He's asking a lot of searches for price of the product that we are selling in education. What is your take on disclosing the prices upfront on the landing page? I think it is all right to place the price of the product especially if you are selling to consumers. I think they want to quickly understand whether that thing fits into their budget or not. And also from a business standpoint, let's say if you're selling a low ticket item, and I don't know what's the price of the product you're selling. Let's say if you're selling a low ticket item, it will be a lot of effort and sales tactics on your part to actually convince that person to buy probably the product at the same price which you eventually will sell him or her to, in comparison to the competition. So I think it's all right to sort of write the price. I think what you can actually try, and this would be interesting, is you may put some sort of a timeline saying, it is offered for 10% off, and first 5 people will get it, or the offer applies only for so and so time. Now you can try that and see what because I've read some research which sort of if you can create some sort of urgency in these kind of stuff, the people tend to buy, and this is actually work in commodity scenario. So even if you're selling a course which is being sold by other people, maybe people will sort of take it. And I don't know, I'm not an expert in this per se, but you can sort of try that and see how it works. Then telecalling helps in SaaS business is a question from Akshar Thakur. Absolutely, it helps. So I don't need to answer that any further because I know it works. What is important though, so I'll add here, is that whom you're calling to. So if you're, and this is interesting to know, because sometimes what happens is, and I've seen salespeople, and it's not their fault, right? Okay, and I did this myself in my early career when I started calling. So you would call, and sometimes the phone will be picked by the security guy. You don't have to give your sales pitch to the security guy; he's not going to understand anything, right? So I think if you call the wrong guy, he's not going to make any head or tail of what you're saying, and and so yeah, I mean, so in short, the answer is yes. What are various ways to increase webinar registration? This is a question by Kripa. I think the first thing you should do is use LeadSquared landing pages. That is one way which will help you increase your registration roughly by 100%. and I'm not joking, I'm giving you stats, facts, number one. And it could be more than that. I mean, I've because we have never used the GoToWebinars, bad and almost impossible to fill pages. So 100% is conservative. Number one. Number two, there are tactics in email which you can use while you send emails to autofill your forms on landing pages, especially if you use LeadSquared landing pages. Then you can further increase the conversion by 20 to 30%, and that we have seen. So autofill and LeadSquared landing pages, connect them to webinar is the deal for increasing the webinar registration. Okay, there's a question from should I use the contact form rather than link to my website in my email marketing campaigns? Should I use the contact form rather than? This is a question from Mandeep. I think what the question, Mandeep, one should ask really is, what is that you're trying to do in the marketing campaign? If you are asking somebody to sign up for something, then you should take them to a sign up page. If you're telling them that, look at my website for a product or a service offering, then it makes sense to take them to the website. So I think what is the intent of the campaign is what you should try to embed in the form. One more thing I would like to add here, to improve the effectiveness of your email campaign, is that try to make a singular focus of that. So you try to have one call to action in the campaign, and you will be able to do that if you know whom you are sending to. So for example, if you are sending to a bunch of companies which are in education sector, then write stuff which is relevant to education sector, and then say and bring them to a page which is relevant for them. That would make a good campaign, and in that page could be a landing page or could be a website page. If it's a landing page, they will actually go to website as well. I mean, that's something you need to find out by doing experiment. But if it's a single offer, self-contained, use landing pages. If something you don't know what customer is looking for and you also don't know what they are looking for, then website would be a better strategy because they can look at a few other things which you offer. However, you will not get a whole lot of conversion in that scenario. When I say conversion, I'm saying the form fill. For a B2B software product on the cloud, is pricing information a good idea, Ravindranath? This seems to be a standard. I think here is my suggestion, sir. I think if the product is new, people start by saying sign up for beta and pricing is they say coming soon. I think that encourages people to sign up, and because beta is free, people do sign up. In later stages, if your businesses, if you're selling to enterprises, let's say, and you don't see, and obviously your pricing is high for that matter, right? Assuming, and you sell to a lot of enterprises, I think then probably you can avoid sharing the information on price. But if you're selling to SMBs and that kind of market, I think it makes sense to show the price, because for you also, you want to be comforting that anybody who's filling a form is actually sure that they are willing to pay that much. If not that much, at least they know what your product is going to be sold for. So I think it's a good idea, I would say. Prashant, how is your experience post an actual sales were made? How easy or difficult is to get the entire sales and marketing staff ready for these kind of online marketing makeover for business in India? I think it's a question from Niladri. So I think if I understand the question correctly, I think the question is how you are going to make your sales and marketing team ready for for the online marketing makeover. I think first is the change in the thinking, right? I mean, it starts from the top. So if the business owners and the leaders do not think it is important, then it will not be important for anybody who's below them. So I think, and I've seen in one of our potential customer situation, we got tremendous resistance. Even the CEO bought the idea that we need this kind of product. The ground sales force rejected the saying we are not able to use it or whatever. And so those kind of situations will come in potentially. But what I've seen is the younger folks who are actually looking at solutions like LeadSquared and probably several others, they are more excited because they want to work less. And by work less I mean if they know which leads to call and which will actually drive sales for them, they will be more happy to work on those tools rather than working on Excel. Some people are more happy to work on Excel for several reasons, but if the tools are advantageous to them, I think they will latch on to it, is what our experience is. I think where we are seeing most resistance today in selling our solution is really at the top end. I mean, business owners don't think that there is enough value in it. Where we have been able to sell the idea to marketers, as in the middle managers who feel value in it, but they are not able to convince to their bosses, about the value. So I think it has to start from the top, is what our experience is. Then what drives traffic to the website for B2B markets? I think Meenu answered that question. Does excess telecalling feed negative branding of company? Akshar. I think yes and no. So when I say yes, meaning if you're calling and you don't make sense to the party who's receiving it, and that happens to be true for a lot of companies, where the salesperson or the telemarketer who's calling is not able to put the pitch forward, and it's a hard one, right? I mean, not everybody can put together a complex pitch in front of this, from an outbound call standpoint. But I think if the pitch quality is good enough, and you're calling them, I think excessive calling, if you call every day, obviously that's not a good idea. And it is also a bad use of your bandwidth, because if somebody is not picking the phone, is not interested to call, talk to you, then you basically move on to the next guy, right? What you can actually use in this scenario is use SMS as a tactic to connect with the person whom I'm trying to reach. We have found that has been effectively used by our customers, where they can, let's say, when they call somebody, the person is not picking a phone. You go to LeadSquared and say send SMS, and a personalized SMS is sent to the party who's on the other side. And so at least the intent from your side is conveyed in a personalized way, saying, hey, I was trying to reach you, you were not available, could you please call me back at this number? And because your number is mentioned in the SMS, if they really want to talk to you, they can easily call you back, right? So that would be my sort of opinion on that. Then should we customize the calling pitch according to CT on the lead generation landing page? I think that is being answered by Meenu. Do you have stats on attendance of webinars in a B2C scenario? I don't know. I mean, as in I have not, I don't have a good answer for that, because I have not had a chance to run a B2C scenario. But I will, there's one company I know who has done it. If I get hold of them, I will ask this question to them, and maybe I'll respond back to you on email of what I hear from them. And then their question is from, should we customize, okay, that's being answered by Meenu. Well, I think there's one more question. What should be the frequency of telecalling before next guy come into the funnel? Okay, that's an interesting question. I think some people have done research on it, and what they found is so there is a frequency you call. So I don't know, I don't remember exactly what that research was, as in there was a practical they did in finding the effectiveness. But I think if I remember correctly, they used to make calls up to 8 times before giving up on a prospect. Now, in the scenario of where your business is, I think 8 times calling is going to be an expensive exercise, in my opinion, right? Unless you're selling a higher ticket item, I think it may not make sense. In Indian scenario, it may, but if you're selling to outside, let's say to US, and having a person sitting in the night calling them, I think 8 may be too much in a short duration. And obviously, in a 2-year duration or a 1-year duration, 8 calls is probably okay. But I think 8 calls will, 6 to 8 calls is what that research said, I remember now, is enough for you to understand whether there is any interest in from the prospect or not. So after that, you can sort of stop. And so what you do then is you use a system like LeadSquared, and if assuming that they are willing to receive an emails from you, you basically connect with them through your low cost marketing exercises. and then when they're ready at a point where they either participate in a webinar or they'll be a little bit more warm to receiving calls from you, hopefully, and you will be able to talk to them. Which days and time is best for running email campaigns for US and Canada? I won't be able to answer this question. I think you will have to try it and then get the stats, because this varies from business to business, and I think I don't have the direct answer for that for what you're asking. But you can, if you're using LeadSquared, I think it'll help you. There are reports there which can tell you what times you got the most opens and clicks versus the volume you are sending an email, and so all of that is available, which you can sort of check and make sense out of it. Awesome. Well, I think we are almost there. So it's 4 p.m. I'll just take one more question and then we'll close the Q&A and the session. So in today's scenario, what should be the ratio of your marketing spend between traditional and web modes? Very good question. I don't know the answer, but the question is extremely good. Okay, so here is how I would approach it. Because the reason actually I don't have an answer is it depends on the kind of business. But I think if you are there are multiple modes, I would say, in offline and online. I think offline is not dead. If anybody tells you that it's dead, I think, and I'm sure you would already know that. But I think what is important and for you to gauge and find the answer, because the thing is that I don't know the answer, but there is a way to find it. So let's say if you're doing a campaign, offline campaign, what you can actually do is when you do offline campaign, assign a different number. You can buy these virtual numbers. So you take a number, assign it to offline campaign, which is what you can constantly use in offline campaigns, let's say, and put an online number which you will use in the online campaigns, and then have a different number on your website, let's say. You would, over a period of time, you would figure out how many calls, let's say in your business you get calls a lot, right? You would be able to figure out how many calls you get across these three numbers and make an assessment of which, and you obviously know what you're spending. And I'm giving you like a back of the envelope idea, not giving you a system which is going to be super duper, give you all kinds of stats, but a back of the envelope calculation you can do. Okay, I spend so much and this is what my result is, and probably you already know that answer by gut feel, but by using this tactic you will be able to get a closer estimate on whether you should, if or whether you should spend on traditional or not. So awesome. Well, thank you all for joining this session. It was awesome to have you all here. I really appreciate your time, and hope you had an awesome weekend. And don't drink and drive, and probably take one of those cabs if you are out there. Over and out. Bye bye.